when my daughter-in-law showed up at my door with a baby at 10 p.m. I had no idea she was about to use him like a weapon against me. I was washing the last of the dinner dishes when I heard pounding on my front door, fast, frantic, like someone running from a storm. At first I thought it was just the wind. The night had been loud all day, rattling the porch railings like it had something to prove. But then I heard it again, this time with a woman's voice cutting through the cold. "Helen, please open the door." I recognized that voice instantly, even though I hadn't heard it in months. Brianna, my daughter-in-law, the kind of woman who always smelled like expensive perfume and trouble. I pulled open the door, ready for an argument, maybe a fake apology. Lord knows that girl never visited me without wanting something. But what I saw next froze me in place. She was standing there with baby Noah, my grandson, pressed against her chest, his tiny hat askew, his face red from crying. She looked wrecked, mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair tangled like she'd been running. "Please," she whispered hoarsely. "I need you to take him. Just for tonight. Please, Helen." My heart dropped clean to the floor. "Noah? What happened? Where's Jacob?" She pushed past me into the living room, pacing like a trapped animal. "Jacob's useless," she snapped. "He won't help me. He won't help us. I just need time. I need space. You're his grandmother. Just take him for a while." I looked at Noah, trembling, confused, reaching his tiny hand toward me. My chest ached. He deserved warmth, safety, something Brianna never seemed capable of giving. But I couldn't ignore the way she kept glancing around my house, like she was taking some mental inventory, nor the way her voice shifted when she said, You still have some money saved, right? Maybe I can get myself straight if." There it was. The real reason she came. Not for the baby. For money. "Brianna," I said quietly, "are you leaving this baby with me because you need help? Or because you're planning something?" Her jaw tightened. Her eyes darted away. And in that moment, I felt it deep in my bones. I wasn't being asked. I was being set up. She placed Noah in my arms, kissed his forehead once, and backed away toward the door. "I'll be back soon," she muttered. "Just don't call Jacob." Then she was gone, into the cold, into the dark, like someone escaping the consequences she created herself. I held Noah close and felt a sinking dread, because nothing about this felt temporary, and I didn't know it yet. But that night was the beginning of a scheme that would rip open every secret my daughter-in-law had been hiding, and drag me right into it. The moment Brianna told me, "Don't call Jacob," that's when I knew something was deeply wrong. I stood in the middle of my living room with baby Noah in my arms, feeling his tiny body shudder as he cried. I rocked him gently, whispering the same lullaby I used to sing to Jacob when he was little. It soothed him, just enough for his sobs to turn into small hiccups. But even as I held him close, my mind wasn't calm. No mother leaves her baby at 10 at night unless she's running from something. Or running towards something worse. I glanced at the front door Brianna had rushed out of. My gut twisted. "Don't call Jacob," she'd said. A woman only says that when she's hiding from her own husband. Or hiding something from him. I laid Noah gently in the little basket I kept for him when they visited, which wasn't often, and pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over Jacob's number for a long moment. This wasn't the kind of decision a mother should have to make. But I'd raised Jacob with honesty. Brianna lived on lies. And the truth didn't wait for perfect timing. So I hit call. He answered on the second ring, sounding exhausted. "Mom, everything okay?" I swallowed. "Jacob, you need to come over." "What? Why? It's late." "It's Noah," I said softly. Silence. Heavy. Long. Then his voice cracked. "Noah? What happened? Is he okay?" "He's safe," I said quickly. "But Jacob." Brianna dropped him off here. She left. She wouldn't tell me much. The sound he made, fear mixed with shame, was the kind a mother never forgets. I'll be there in 15 minutes." He hung up. And that's when I noticed something that made my heart sink deeper. Brianna had left behind her purse. Not just a little wallet. Her entire purse. Women don't forget purses. They don't leave them behind by accident. I carried it to the kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a bottle, a pacifier, crushed receipts, and something that made my blood run cold. A government document. One with my name on it, my address, and a section about child custody financial benefits. I stared at it, my heart pounding. She wasn't leaving the baby with me out of desperation. She was leaving him with me to file something. Something that would bind me legally. The front door burst open. Jacob rushed in, breathless, eyes wide as he saw his son sleeping peacefully in the basket. Mom, what did she do? I handed him the document silently. His face drained of color. And the look in my son's eyes told me this wasn't the first time Brianna had lied about money. Or used baby Noah as her weapon. When Jacob read the document Brianna left behind, he didn't look surprised. And that scared me more than anything. Jacob sank into the chair like his knees had given out. He held the government form in one hand, rubbing his forehead with the other. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, Noah's soft breathing, everything except my son's voice. Finally, he whispered. I knew she was up to something, but I didn't know it was this. My heart clenched. Jacob, what do you mean? What has she been doing? He stared at the paper like it was poison. Mom, Brianna's been talking about applying for childcare assistance. Government money. But she kept saying she couldn't get approved because they needed someone older, someone responsible, someone stable as the primary guardian. My breath caught. Jacob, are you saying? Yes, he said bitterly. She wanted you listed as the guardian. The benefit checks, they'd go to her. I felt like someone had punched me. Me? Guardian? For money? She wasn't dumping the baby for safety or sanity. She was dumping him for profit. Jacob ran a hand through his hair, eyes red. She's been fighting with me for weeks, saying I don't make enough. That Noah is too expensive. That she needs the extra money to survive. I stared at him. She wanted to use Noah to get paid? He nodded slowly. And she wanted to use you to make it look legit. My pulse thundered. All those months of her avoiding me, rolling her eyes at me, keeping Noah away. And now suddenly she drops him off like a package and runs? It all added up. She needed just enough time with Noah under my roof to file something in my name. Jacob, I said quietly, has she done anything like this before? He didn't answer right away. That told me everything. Finally he said, she took out a credit card in my name last year. Said it was for emergencies. She maxed it out in 2 weeks. My stomach flipped. Oh, Jacob. He shook his head. I thought Noah would change her. I thought motherhood would make her better. But she's getting worse. And now she's dragging you into it. We both looked at sleeping Noah, tiny, peaceful, innocent. He didn't know the chaos swirling around him. He didn't know his mother was using him like a paycheck. Jacob's voice broke. I can't believe she left him here. I can't believe she just walked away. I touched his shoulder. I don't think she walked away, sweetheart. He looked at me confused. I pointed to the papers. She's planning something. Something legal. Something fast. And we need to figure out what before she comes back. Right then my phone buzzed. A message. From a number I didn't recognize. One sentence. Cold. Sharp. Don't give Noah to anyone. I'll be back for him, and the paperwork. Jacob went pale. Because the moment Brianna texted me, I realized she wasn't just using Noah for money. She was setting us up for something far, far bigger. When Brianna texted me from an unknown number, I realized she wasn't panicked. She wasn't scared. She was planning. The buzz of my phone cut through the quiet like a blade. I glanced down, expecting maybe Jacob's boss or a friend checking in. But the number wasn't saved. No picture. No name. Just a cold line of text glowing on my screen. Don't let anyone take Noah. I'll come back for him. And the paperwork. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Paperwork. That was her priority. Not Noah. Not Jacob. Not safety. Just the documents she needed for whatever scheme she was building. Jacob leaned over my shoulder and read it twice. He didn't say a word for several seconds. I knew that silence. He used to get the same look as a little boy when he broke something and was scared to admit it. Mom, he finally whispered. This wasn't sent in a hurry. She's not confused. She's not running. She's calculating. I finished. And that was the truth. Brianna always knew how to twist a situation until everyone looked guilty except her. She could turn tears on like a faucet, turn blame like a steering wheel, turn Jacob inside out with one dramatic moment. But this? Leaving her baby and texting from a burner number? That wasn't drama. That was strategy. Jacob started pacing, running his hand down his face. I knew she was unstable, but Mom, this is something else. She's hiding something. She's trying to get you legally tied to Noah. Once she files that paperwork, she gets the benefits, I said softly. And I get the responsibility. I walked into the living room, watching Noah sleep in his little basket. His cheeks were still pink from crying earlier, his tiny fist curled under his chin. He didn't deserve to be used like this. Not as a paycheck. Not as leverage. Not as a pawn in Brianna's twisted game. Jacob followed me, his voice heavy with guilt. She told me yesterday she was meeting someone about financial options. I thought maybe it was a social worker or a counselor. But now I'm wondering if she met someone who showed her how to file for assistance. I looked at him sharply. Jacob, did she ever talk about leaving? He froze. His mouth opened then closed. Finally he said, she asked me last week what would happen if she gave someone else temporary care of Noah. I thought she meant daycare. I didn't think. You didn't think she'd dump him on your mother's doorstep, I said. Not accusing. Just the truth. Jacob sank into the recliner like his body weighed too much to hold up. She's setting you up. She wants you to hold Noah just long enough for her to claim you're the primary caregiver. I didn't answer. Because we both knew it made perfect sense. Perfect, awful sense. The front porch light flickered. Just once. But enough to make both of us look toward the window. Jacob's voice dropped to a whisper. Mom, do you think she's out there? My skin prickled. The night felt too quiet. Too aware. I held Noah closer. Because suddenly, it felt like I wasn't just caring for my grandson. I was protecting him. And I didn't know it yet, but before sunrise, Brianna's plan would explode. And drag the police straight to my doorstep. When someone knocked on my door at 3 a.m., I knew it wasn't Brianna. But whoever it was, they were here because of her. Jacob had fallen asleep on the couch, worn out from worry, guilt, and fear. I stayed awake, rocking Noah, listening to every sound the old house made. The heater kicking on, the wind brushing the windows, the faint creak of the porch steps in the cold. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Same cold tone. Did Jacob show up? Don't let him take the baby. My blood ran cold. Why didn't she want Jacob with his own son? What was she planning? Why did she want Noah with me, but not with his father? I didn't respond. I couldn't. Every instinct told me to stay still and quiet. Jacob stirred awake around 3 a.m., rubbing his eyes. Mom, you okay? Before I could answer, bam, bam, bam. A heavy knock rattled the front door. We both froze. No one knocks politely at that hour. Not neighbors. Not friends. Not family. Stay here, Jacob whispered, stepping toward the hallway. But I grabbed his arm. No, Kakov. Let me check. Because something told me. Whoever was out there wanted him just as much as they wanted the baby. I walked slowly to the door, peeking through the side window. My heart jumped. Red and blue lights reflected off my front lawn. 2 officers stood on my porch. Police. At 3 a.m. With a baby sleeping in my arms. And a daughter-in-law texting threats from a burner number. Jacob stepped beside me and whispered, horrified. Mom, did she call them on us? My hands trembled as I unlocked the door. The officers nodded politely, but their expressions were serious. Ma'am, are you Helen Carmichael? Yes, I said, tightening my hold on Noah. Is something wrong? The taller officer cleared his throat. We received a call from a woman named Brianna Carmichael. She reported her child missing, and said he might be in danger. My stomach dropped. Missing? In danger? She handed him to me herself. The officer glanced down at Noah, then back at me. Ma'am, she told us you refused to return him. Jacob stepped forward, voice cracking. That's a lie. She left him here and disappeared. Both officers exchanged a look. A look that said, We've seen this before, and it gets messy. I took a deep breath. Officers, I have proof. She texted me. She left paperwork. But before I could finish, one of the officers cut me off gently. Ma'am, we just need to verify the situation. We're not here to take the baby. He paused. Unless the court has already filed something. Court? Filed. Already? No. No, no, no. She couldn't have moved that fast. Could she? Jacob's face went white. Mom, he whispered. What if she filed the paperwork before she came here? My heart stopped. And right then I realized something terrifying. Brianna wasn't acting out of panic. She was executing a plan she'd prepared long before she showed up at my door. When the officer said the word court, something inside me cracked. Because suddenly this wasn't just drama. It was a setup. The officers stepped inside, their radios crackling softly. Jacob stood close to me, arms crossed, but I could see the panic rising behind his eyes. Noah shifted in my arms, letting out a tiny whimper. Even half asleep, he could feel the tension in the air. Babies always know more than they seem to. Ma'am, the taller officer said, you mentioned texts. May we see them? Of course, I said, pulling up the messages. He took photos. Lots of them. Every message. Every timestamp. Everything. The younger officer checked Brianna's name in his tablet and frowned. Ma'am, she filed something earlier today. Around 4:15 p.m. Jacob's head snapped up. Filed what? The officer hesitated. And that hesitation told me more truth than any answer could. Sir, he finally said. It appears she submitted a request for temporary emergency guardianship, claiming you and your wife were unsafe caregivers. My pulse roared in my ears. What? I whispered. She didn't even leave the baby until almost 10 p.m. The officer nodded grimly. That's why this doesn't add up. She filed the request hours before she dropped Noah off here. Hours before. Before she cried. Before she begged. Before she pretended she was overwhelmed. Before she pretended she needed help. Jacob stepped forward, voice shaking with fury. And she said we were unsafe? My mother is the safest person Noah could ever be with. The officer looked sympathetic. I don't think the judge approved anything yet. But she did submit the form. My knees felt weak. So she planned this, I whispered. She planned to drop him off so she could claim I took him? The officer didn't deny it. His silence was answer enough. Jacob started pacing again, running both hands through his hair. She said she was going to the store earlier today. She was gone all afternoon. I thought she was shopping. She must have gone to the courthouse. I exhaled shakily. She's trying to get money in Noah's name, by making me responsible for him legally. The officer nodded. That small nod hit harder than anything else. Ma'am, he said carefully, this isn't the first time we've seen a parent try to manipulate the system. Filing early, dropping the child off, claiming danger. It's a pattern. My stomach twisted. A pattern. She wasn't just desperate. She wasn't overwhelmed. She'd done her homework. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she thought she would get away with it. Officers, I said, voice trembling but steady. What do we do now? The younger officer looked at Noah. Right now? You keep the baby warm. Keep him safe. Don't let anyone take him unless we verify it. Anyone? Jacob repeated. The officer nodded. Anyone. Until we sort this out. Just then, a loud screech of tires echoed outside. Headlights flashed through the living room windows. Someone had pulled into my driveway fast. Too fast. Jacob stiffened. The officers reached for their radios. And I held Noah closer, praying it wasn't who I thought it was. Because the moment that car door slammed, I knew Brianna had come back, and she wasn't coming alone. The moment I heard that car door slam, I knew it wasn't just Brianna outside. She brought backup, and not the kind that comes in peace. The officers moved toward the front window, hands hovering near their belts. Jacob stood frozen beside the sofa, staring through the blinds like he could will the darkness to disappear. I held Noah tight, feeling his tiny heartbeat flutter against my chest. He was warm, soft, innocent, and completely unaware of the storm waiting outside my door. The porch steps creaked. Heavy. And then another set of footsteps followed. Not one person. Two. The younger officer glanced back at me. Ma'am, stay behind us. Like I needed to be told. My body wasn't moving anywhere. A woman's voice pierced the night, sharp, practiced, and cold as ice. Open the door. I know he's in there. Brianna. But she wasn't shouting like a desperate mother. No. She sounded like someone reading lines she rehearsed in the mirror. Then another voice, male, irritated, impatient. Brianna, keep your voice down. We're not here to fight. Just get the baby and go. Jacob's eyes widened. That's Derek. Her cousin. The one who always helps her with her financial plans. Financial plans. My stomach tightened. That explained the second set of footprints. The officer cracked the door open just enough to step onto the porch. Ma'am, sir, please step back. Brianna shoved forward anyway, her hair wild, her eyes wide, but not with fear. With performance. She scanned the room behind the officer, and then spotted me holding Noah. Her voice instantly trembled. Oh, thank God. My baby. My sweet baby. Helen, I was terrified. Why didn't you call me? I stared at her, stunned at how fast she could switch emotions. Jacob muttered under his breath. Unbelievable. The officer lifted a hand. Ma'am, we need to clarify a few things before the child goes anywhere. Derek stepped up, annoyed. This is stupid. She's his mother. Just give her the kid and let us leave. We've got paperwork. Paperwork. Always paperwork. Brianna reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled envelope, thrusting it toward the officer like a winning lottery ticket. It's signed. The emergency guardianship. It's done. I get to decide where Noah stays. My breath caught. Signed? No. That couldn't be. The officer took the envelope, opened it, and scanned the papers. His expression didn't change, but his jaw set. That wasn't good. Ma'am, he said carefully. These papers are incomplete. They're stamped but not approved. The judge hasn't signed off on anything. Brianna froze. Just for half a second. A crack in her performance. Then she began crying, loud, dramatic, shaking her shoulders like a stage actress. Please. Please. Just give me my baby. She won't give him back to me. She wants to take him. I had never felt such fury burn through my chest. How dare she? How dare she accuse me of the very thing she was doing? Jacob stepped forward, voice shaking with anger. Brianna, stop. You left him here. You dumped him and ran. Her crying stopped instantly. Just stopped. Her eyes hardened as she looked at Jacob. You better watch what you say. You're already on record. The officers exchanged looks. This was getting dangerous. Calculated. Like she had rehearsed every line before stepping onto my porch. Then Noah whimpered softly, waking. Brianna's head whipped toward him. And for the first time that night, I saw something real in her expression. Not love. Not fear. Greed. She wanted what came with the baby. The money. The benefits. The control. Officer number 2 stepped back inside and whispered to me. Ma'am, you might want to sit down. We just got an update from dispatch. My heart dropped. An update. He nodded. It's about Brianna and what she filed earlier today. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a custody trick. Brianna had filed something else, something far more dangerous. When the officer said there was another form Brianna filed, a chill ran down my spine. Whatever she did, it wasn't just sneaky, it was criminal. I clutched Noah tighter as the officer led me toward the living room, away from the shouting on the porch. Jacob stayed near the doorway, keeping an eye on Brianna and Derek, both pacing like wolves who smelled blood. The officer lowered his voice. Ma'am, dispatch just confirmed something unusual. Earlier today, before she dropped Noah off, Brianna filed a second report. What kind of report? I whispered. He hesitated. And that hesitation felt like a punch to the chest. A neglect allegation. My breath stopped. Against who? The officer swallowed. Against you, ma'am. Against you. My knees nearly buckled. Against me? Me who raised my son alone. Me who never left a baby crying 1 minute longer than necessary. Me, who had Noah in my arms because she abandoned him. I felt the room sway for a moment. She filed that I neglected him? Before she ever gave him to me. Yes, the officer said quietly. And that's what makes this serious. She reported you at 4:20 p.m., saying you were an unsafe caregiver and had a history of ignoring medical needs. I pressed a hand to my chest. I don't. I've never. That's a lie. The officer nodded gently. We can see that. But she filed it. Which means she intended to leave Noah with you, and then use the report to take him back under emergency conditions. My stomach twisted. That would make me look like I stole him. Exactly. The officer's face softened with sympathy. She was building a legal trap. Leave Noah with you. Claim you took him. Claim you're unsafe. File for emergency guardianship. Then collect benefits. The room felt colder. My breath felt tight. I stared down at Noah, who blinked up at me with big trusting eyes. He didn't know his mother was staging a legal ambush before he could even sit up on his own. Jacob stormed inside, slamming the door behind him. Mom, she's losing it out there. She's threatening to call someone higher up. She says she already talked to a social worker. The officer nodded grimly. We just confirmed she did. My heart sank deeper. What did she tell them? He exhaled slowly. That you forced her to give up Noah. That Jacob is unstable. That you both refused to let her take her own child. Jacob looked like he might break the wall in half. She is out of her mind. She left him and disappeared. I touched his arm. Jacob, she filed the allegation hours before she ever came here. His face transformed shock, then realization, then rage. She planned to make you look like a kidnapper. The word hit me hard. Kidnapper. Me. A 67-year-old grandmother who still folds baby blankets warm from the dryer? The officer spoke gently but firmly. Mom, I need to ask you something important. I steadied myself. Yes. If she left the baby and she filed against you, and she disappeared for hours, is there any chance Brianna planned to abandon Noah entirely? My mouth went dry, because in my heart, I already knew the answer. But before I could speak, a violent pounding shook the front door. Brianna's voice shrieked through the wood. If you don't give him to me now, I swear I'll make sure you never see him again. Noah burst into frightened cries. Jacob stepped in front of me. The officers reached for the door, and I felt something inside me harden. Resolve. Strength. A grandmother's fire. Because in that moment, I understood. Brianna wasn't here to take her baby back. She was here to finish the trap she set, and she was willing to destroy us to do it. When Brianna screamed that she'd make sure I never saw Noah again, I knew we were past drama. This was war, and she'd prepared for it long before tonight. The front door rattled under her fists. The officers stepped forward, bracing their shoulders as if expecting Brianna to shove her way inside. Jacob stood beside them, jaw tight, fists balled so hard his knuckles turned white. Noah cried louder, his tiny face scrunched with fear. I held him closer, whispering softly, trying to drown out the chaos vibrating through the house. No child deserved this, not even for one night. Officer Daniels cracked the door open an inch and stepped out onto the porch. His tone shifted, calm but firm, the voice of a man who had handled too many middle-of-the-night emergencies. Ma'am, you need to step back. We're handling the situation inside. But Brianna didn't step back. She leaned closer, her mascara smeared, her breath ragged. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't pretending. She was furious, unhinged, determined. I want my baby, she shrieked. She stole him from me. She's been trying to take him for months. Jacob burst through the door and pointed a shaking finger at her. Stop lying. You left him and ran. You filed false reports. You, Jacob, Officer Daniels snapped, step back inside. Jacob backed up, but his eyes never left Brianna, and hers never left me. She looked past the officers, past Jacob, straight to where I stood holding Noah. Her voice dropped into a frightening, icy calm. You don't get it, Helen. You don't get what I need. Every word was slow, deliberate, dangerous. What do you need, Brianna? I asked, my voice trembling but steady. She stared at me like I was a puzzle she almost solved. Then she said it, softly, almost conversationally. Money. The officer stiffened. Jacob froze. My heart lurched. Money. Not Noah. Not safety. Not motherhood. Money. She continued, her voice brittle with resentment. Do you think rent pays itself? Do you think daycare grows on trees? Do you think Jacob's paycheck is enough for anything? We're drowning. I'm drowning. Jacob's voice cracked. Then why didn't you ask for help? She let out a humorless laugh. Because help doesn't pay monthly. The officers exchanged a fast look. They understood exactly what she meant. So did I. She wasn't trying to take Noah. She wasn't trying to parent him. She was trying to use him. For benefits. For sympathy. For leverage. For income. And when I didn't immediately fold, she panicked. She escalated. She tried to force the situation. She took a step forward. I need the paperwork, Helen. I need your signature. It'll be easier for everyone. My blood ran cold. Her voice was eerily calm now, like she thought I'd break if she asked nicely enough. I'm not signing anything, I said quietly. Her expression snapped. The mask dropped. And then she screamed. A raw, furious sound that sent chills down my spine. I'm his mother. If you don't sign, I swear I'll. Officer Daniels stepped between us, blocking her from view. That's enough. Step off the property now. She tried to push past him. He pushed her back gently but firmly. Derek grabbed her arm. Bree, stop. You're making it worse. She jerked away. He stole my baby. She stole him. Officer Daniels sighed heavily. Ma'am, if you continue, we will detain you. That finally made her pause. But her eyes, those sharp, angry eyes, never left mine. And in that glare, I saw something terrifying. She wasn't giving up. Not even close. Because what Brianna did next didn't just threaten my reputation. It threatened the legal right for me to hold my own grandson in my arms. Brianna wasn't done. Her next move wasn't screaming or begging. It was something far worse. Something that could legally rip Noah out of my arms. After the officers warned her, Brianna finally stepped back from the porch, but only physically. Her mind was still inside my home. On Noah. On the paperwork she wanted me to sign. Derek kept whispering, let's go, Bree. Not worth it. But she wouldn't budge. Her eyes stayed fixed on me, with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Then, in the middle of the chaos, her phone buzzed. She snatched it up, read something, and suddenly, her whole posture changed. Her breathing steadied. Her tears stopped. Her shoulders lifted. Like she'd just received good news. The officers noticed. Jacob noticed. I noticed. She smirked. Actually smirked. And said almost smugly, oh, looks like I don't need her signature after all. My heart sank. What does that mean? I demanded. She tilted her head. Pure venom behind that fake sweetness of hers. Let's just say, a certain social worker finally called me back. The officers stiffened. Jacob stepped forward. What did you do? He asked, voice shaking. Brianna shrugged like she was talking about the weather. I told them the truth. That you two stole my baby. That Helen has been trying to get custody for months. That you're unstable. That Noah isn't safe here. My stomach turned. Every lie she said was carefully crafted, perfectly timed, designed to look believable. Officer Daniels lowered his voice, trying to calm things. Ma'am, false reports are a serious offense. You need to stop. False, she snapped. You think I'd lie about my own baby? You think I'd make this up? Jacob's face twisted with fury. You did make it up. She ignored him completely and kept talking. Loud enough for the officer's body cameras to pick up every word. Smart. Calculated. Terrifying. I want CPS notified, she said. I want the emergency guardian removed. I want my son back. She said my son, like the words were knives meant to stab me. The younger officer stepped inside and whispered urgently. Helen, the social worker is actually en route. She's coming here. It felt like the floor dropped beneath me. A social worker. At 3:30 in the morning. Brianna had moved faster than I thought possible. And she wasn't done. She shouted from the porch. I told them Helen has been trying to replace me. They're going to believe me, why wouldn't they? Jacob exploded. You're insane. Mom never tried to. But I put a hand on his arm. Stop. That's exactly what she wants. She wants us emotional, loud, unstable. Brianna grinned, as if she heard every word. And then she pulled out another envelope. Sealed. Official looking. She lifted it like a trophy. I submitted this to, she said proudly. Proof of neglect. Proof Noah isn't safe with you. My heart pounded so loud it hurt. What proof? I whispered. Her smile widened. You'll see. Jacob's face twisted in horror. Mom, I think she forged something. The officers exchanged a serious look. Outside, another car pulled up, slow, deliberate, with headlights turning down my driveway. A woman stepped out holding a clipboard. Professional. Calm. Deadly serious. The social worker. Everything inside me screamed. This was exactly the moment Brianna had been planning. This was her trap. Her timing. Her perfect setup. And she was smiling like she'd already won. And when the social worker stepped onto my porch with that clipboard and said, "Ma'am, I need to see the baby," I realized Brianna hadn't just set a trap. She planned every second of it. And if I made one wrong move, Noah would be taken from my arms before sunrise. When the social worker stepped inside and asked for Noah, I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. One wrong word, one wrong expression, and Brianna would win. The social worker introduced herself as Ms. Carter, her voice calm but authoritative, the kind of tone that can soften a storm or start one. She stepped into my living room, her eyes scanning everything. The baby blanket, the bottle on the counter, Jacob standing stiffly behind the officers, and finally me. "Mrs. Carmichael," she said gently, "I received a report tonight about a possible unsafe environment for an infant." Brianna's voice suddenly floated from the porch like poison. "Yes. Thank you. They stole my baby. They wouldn't let me leave with him." Ms. Carter didn't turn around. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she looked straight at me. "May I see the child, please?" My arms tightened instinctively around Noah. Not protectively. Desperately. But I forced myself to breathe, to look steady, calm, honest. Because the truth was on my side. And truth only wins when it's delivered with clarity, not panic. "Of course," I whispered. "He's right here." I gently shifted Noah so she could see him. He blinked up at her with wide, sleepy eyes. His cheeks were warm, his breathing soft and steady. He didn't look neglected. He didn't look unsafe. He looked loved. Miss Carter nodded once, then checked him carefully. His hands, his feet, the back of his neck. No bruising. No rash. No rash. No signs of distress. Her expression softened. Not much, but enough to give me a sliver of hope. "Mrs. Carmichael," she said quietly, "he seems well cared for. When did he arrive here?" I told her. Everything. The 10 p.m. knock. The panic. The way Brianna shoved him at me and ran. The text messages. Ms. Carter's brow furrowed. "You have those texts? May I see them?" I handed her my phone. She scrolled slowly, reading every single line. Every timestamp. Every threat. Jacob added. She filed papers before she dropped Noah off. She planned this. Miss Carter looked at him closely. "And you are the father?" Jacob nodded. "Yes. And I had no idea she was doing any of this." Before she could respond, Brianna shrieked from the porch. "He's lying. He's unstable. He can't even hold a job. She wants my baby. She's been plotting this." Miss Carter finally turned toward the door. Her tone cooled several degrees. "Ma'am, please remain outside while I complete the assessment." Brianna screamed, kicked the porch rail, and stomped like a tantruming child. Derek tried dragging her back toward the car, but she jerked away. Miss Carter exhaled sharply, the kind of exhale social workers do when they've seen this all before. She looked back at me. "Helen, may I check something else? Your fridge. Your home. Basic conditions." "Of course," I said, because I had nothing to hide. She inspected everything. The fridge stocked. The heater working. The baby blanket fresh. The air warm. The house clean. She wrote notes on her clipboard. and her expression kept softening, bit by bit. Meanwhile, Brianna raged outside, screaming lies into the night. Take him from her. She's manipulating you. Officer Daniels radioed dispatch quietly. Ms. Carter turned back to me, her voice calm but serious. Helen, based on what I'm seeing, there is no evidence Noah is in danger here. But I need one more thing. What is it? I whispered. She lowered her clipboard. Helen, do you have any reason to believe Brianna intended to abandon Noah permanently? I froze. The weight of her question hit my chest like a blow. Because the answer was yes. And if I said it out loud, everything would change. I looked down at Noah's trusting little face. At the officers waiting. At Jacob breaking apart beside me. At the door where Brianna screamed about her baby, like she didn't just leave him in the cold. And I told the truth. Yes, I whispered. I believe she did. Miss Carter watched me carefully. Her pen hovered. Her decision forming. Her next words unstoppable. Then Mrs. Carmichael. I need to tell you what happens next. And what she told me next didn't just change the night. It changed Noah's entire future. And exposed the darkest part of Brianna's plan. When Ms. Carter finally spoke, her words didn't feel like words. They felt like a verdict. One that could either save Noah, or cost me everything. Ms. Carter set her clipboard on the table, and folded her hands. Her expression wasn't cold, but it was firm. The kind of firmness that comes from years of handling messy, painful situations. Helen, she said softly, thank you for being honest. Most people aren't in moments like this. I swallowed hard. My voice barely worked. What happens now? She glanced toward the porch where Brianna was pacing like a cornered animal, shouting threats into the night, growing more erratic by the second. Derek kept trying to calm her, but she jerked away from him each time, screaming louder. Ms. Carter lowered her voice even more. I reviewed the paperwork Brianna submitted. And I need you to know something important. My heart hammered. Jacob stepped closer, holding on to the back of the recliner like he needed it to stay upright. The officers leaned in too. Ms. Carter continued. The neglect report she filed was incomplete, inconsistent, and submitted before she left Noah here. I closed my eyes. It felt like confirmation of what I'd known deep in my bones. She went on. That timing alone is considered suspicious, potentially even fraudulent. Jacob let out a shaky exhale. So you see what's happening? He asked. That she did this on purpose? Ms. Carter nodded. Yes. And that's why I need to make an emergency recommendation. I held Noah a little closer. His tiny fingers curled around my sweater like he could feel the tension too. Ms. Carter took a long breath. Helen, for tonight, Noah is staying here. With you. I blinked. I what? Jacob let out a choked sound. Half relief, half disbelief. Officer Daniels actually relaxed his shoulders. But Ms. Carter wasn't finished. I'm also recommending that Brianna not have custody until a formal evaluation can be made. Outside, Brianna must have sensed something shifting, because she suddenly went silent. The quiet was worse than the yelling. Heavy. Electric. Ms. Carter continued slowly. Based on what I've heard and seen tonight, I have reasonable cause to believe she was attempting to abandon Noah, while setting you up to take the blame. My chest tightened. It felt like that. I whispered. It felt like she wanted me trapped. Ms. Carter nodded. That's exactly what it looks like. Jacob sank into a chair, and put his face in his hands. He'd been holding so much in for so long. This was the first moment he'd allowed himself to break. But Ms. Carter wasn't done. Her next words hit me harder than anything else that night. Helen, I'm recommending temporary protective custody with you as the caregiver. My breath caught. Protective custody? She nodded gently. Yes. It means Noah stays here. Under your care. Legally. Until a judge reviews everything. Outside, Brianna suddenly screamed. No. No. You can't do this. Ms. Carter looked toward the door unbothered, and said calmly, Brianna will be informed she cannot take the child tonight. And possibly not for a while. Jacob stood up slowly. He looked at his son. Then at me. Then at the officers. So she can't take him, he asked. Not even if she tries? No, Ms. Carter said firmly. Not anymore. It felt like the air in the room finally loosened. Like I could breathe again. Like Noah was safe, at least for the moment. But then Ms. Carter added something that made my heart stop cold. However, Brianna claims she has proof of your neglect. I need to see that evidence. I froze. Jacob's face drained of color. The officers tensed. Proof? What proof? What could she possibly have? And then the awful realization hit me. That envelope she waved earlier. The one she said would show everything. Ms. Carter turned toward the porch. I'll need those documents now. Brianna stood there, shaking, smirking, clutching the envelope like it was her golden ticket. She stepped forward slowly. Triumphant. Confident. Like she believed she was about to win. Because when Brianna handed over that envelope, no one knew that inside it was the most dangerous lie she had ever created. One that could still tear Noah away from me in an instant. When Brianna finally handed over that envelope, she looked at me like she'd already won. But she had no idea the lie inside would be the thing that destroyed her plan for good. Ms. Carter took the envelope carefully, her expression unreadable. Brianna stood tall on the porch, chin raised, breathing heavy like she'd just run a marathon she believed she'd won. Jacob hovered behind me, shoulders tight, waiting for the next blow. I held Noah against my chest, his tiny breath warm on my skin. He didn't understand any of this. He didn't know his entire future was sitting in a thin piece of paper. Ms. Carter opened the envelope. Slow. Methodical. Professional. The officers leaned in. Jacob did too. My pulse hammered so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. She pulled out a single sheet of paper. Thick. Official looking. Stamped at the bottom. Or it's appearing to be. She read silently for a few seconds. Her brows drew together. Her lips tightened. And then, she held the paper up toward the lamplight. It didn't take a trained eye to see it. It was wrong. Sloppy. Amateur. Ms. Carter let out a slow, disappointed sigh. This is a forgery. Brianna's face dropped. Not in fear. In fury. No, it's not. That's the form. It's a forgery, Ms. Carter repeated sharply. Wrong formatting. Incorrect signatures. Fake stamp. A judge's section left blank. The officers stepped forward. Officer Daniels took the paper and looked at it himself. Ma'am, making fake court documents is a felony. A what? Jacob gasped. A felony, Daniels repeated. Punishable by fines and, depending on intent, possible jail time. Brianna turned completely pale. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her entire act, the crying, the screaming, the accusations, crumbled like wet paper. Derek swore under his breath. Bree, what did you do? She backed up 2 steps, shaking her head. I didn't, it's not, you don't understand. But Ms. Carter wasn't finished. She pulled out the second page. This one sealed her fate. It was a printed email draft. Addressed to herself. With notes. A script. Lines like, say Helen is unstable. Say Jacob threatened you. Cry at the beginning. Mention financial hardship. My stomach twisted. She had written out her performance. Planned it. Practiced it. Prepared every lie. Ms. Carter's voice iced over. Brianna Carmichael, you intentionally filed false reports, forged legal documents, and attempted to abandon your child to create financial gain. Brianna burst into tears. Not grief, not regret, but exposure. Raw, hot, furious exposure. You can't take my baby, she screamed. He's mine. Mine. Jacob stepped forward, tears in his eyes. No. He's not yours to use. Ms. Carter nodded firmly to the officers. Officers, please escort Ms. Carmichael off the property. She will have supervised contact only, until further notice. Brianna tried to grab Jacob's arm. He pulled away. She tried to touch Noah. I stepped back protectively, heart hammering. And then she whispered, the last venom she had left. You think you've won, old woman? Just wait. But even her threats sounded empty now. Weak. Broken. The officers led her away. Her screams echoed down the driveway until the patrol car door shut. Then, silence. The most peaceful silence I'd heard all night. Jacob sank onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. Ms. Carter touched my shoulder gently. Helen, Noah is safe. Truly safe. I looked down at his little face. Peaceful. Warm. Trusting. My heart swelled. Not with pride. Not with victory. With purpose. I kissed his forehead. You're home, sweetheart, I whispered. No one will use you ever again. Ms. Carter smiled faintly. I'll be filing the official recommendation in the morning. You'll hear from the court soon. Jacob looked up, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in him for years. Gratitude. Strength. Hope. Mom, he said softly. Thank you for protecting him. Thank you for protecting us. I held Noah close, rocking him gently as the sun began to rise. A new day. A safer one. A better one. And as the first light came through my window, I realized something. I wasn't just Noah's grandmother anymore. I was the person who saved him, and the one who would never let him be used again. If my story kept you company today, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. I'd love to have you back for the next story.